Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 94 of Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. I'm your host, the Maticon, and joining me today we have Rurk,
Hey everybody.
Nick,
How's it going?
and Impact.
Yo, what's good, everybody?
Thanks, guys, for coming on today. News this week. Today is June 22nd, 2024. I believe Tokyo Pop is having they're hosting a Sasha focused sort of panel with Matt Brawley and Sasha's actress Anna Akana. I forgot the date of that, but I believe it was in like mid-July.
I think so. I thought it was early. No, you're probably right. It probably is. Yeah.
Let me just double check my notes. Oh, July 6th. Okay.
Oh, okay. That's pretty soon. That's really soon. Wow.
Yeah, it's Amphibia panel. Storyboard artist Silver Paul is going to be there. Graphic designer Sol DeLeo. I don't think I've heard of him before.
I mean, I have to say it's very exciting. I don't know how many things Anna Khan has been a part of. Plus, I don't know if you've ever even seen Silver Paul in a video related event. So yeah, it's just nice. I know it's nice getting these names together.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere too. I wasn't expecting
Same.
Sasha focus thing. I guess we kind of got a Marcy one with Marcy's journal, but that felt fitting. Now we just have I guess Matt just wanted to complete the set. I guess and just give Sasha some time too. Maybe just Anna Kana was happened to be going to was it the Anime Expo? Is that what it's for?
Yep.
And then Matt was just like, hey, let's just make it Sasha related, and boom, there we go. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, you do have to wonder how did Matt even get there, because it's like we're talking about an anime convention. I know he's into anime, but it's just how did Amphibia get invited to an anime convention? And also a Sasha specific one. There's a lot of questions here.
Yeah,
do you think this is just speculation, but do you think they're gonna tease a new project at the end?
Oh,
one can hope.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I feel like if it's Sasha focused, probably not. I don't really know.
Because it just seemed like a really odd thing to focus on. That's why I was just I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but I'll be.
Yeah.
It was just
if it was
because we never had a character focus it was a really odd way to phrase it from Matt's end, but in my opinion, I just thought it was odd. But
yeah, I mean, I don't even know what.
Oh, we are getting a first look at the art of Amphibia, so that'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if it's Sasha focused that art specifically. I assume so.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Sasha celebration, so.
But I think that's all the news we have for today.
Oh, did we talk about that it was confirmed by Matt that it was
that too.
Delayed.
Yeah, the book has been the Art Amphibia book has been delayed from November to March of 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too surprising, because I do think there were plenty of people saying that the Amazon the Amazon delivery dates were changing for them. So I think I guess it's good to finally get that confirmation from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't mind the delay anyway. I don't think that's a super big deal for me. I mean, it sucks that it's not in the holidays, to be fair. I think Marcy's journal was, for Christmas season. But I don't know. I don't mind that too much. And we're getting this preview anyway, so Matt's probably gonna give us a little bit more crumbs as we go along. So
yeah, no, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all the news for this week, and now we can get into this week's topic, which is our character focused recording to focus on Amphibia's favorite pink little guy, Sprig Plantar. So, a bit similar to like our past character discussions, we'll kind of just go by season 1, 2, and 3. I know we made a couple exceptions for like I think Sasha and Marcy just because of the way their story worked out. But Sprig, we can go with the straightforward, linear progression, I guess. And I guess just before we start, Sprig is definitely the most interesting. I guess as like when I analyze Amphibia's characters, like and how like they start off and where they end up, Sprig was always like the one that kind of like eluded me the most. And I didn't really have like a clear idea or a clear way to like explain how I felt about him until like Matt kind of like gave a bit more insight in that interview we had. I just want to start off with Rook because I know you want to just get a couple of thoughts in before you head out. I guess what are your I know you're a big Sprig fan, so I'll just let you, the floor is yours.
And no problem. Thanks. I'm glad we can finally talk about like Amphibia's main character. I'm only half joking, but like, so I'm really grateful for the Wartwood Gazette because like it puts a very good light on the idea because a lot of people I would say are like Calamity Trio centered focused truthers when it comes to Amphibia, whereas I feel like this podcast really did a great job focusing on the Anne and the Plantars narrative, which I really appreciate. Personally, for me, and this is not, I'm speaking for myself and not this Gazette, I like to forward the Sprig narrative when it comes to Amphibia because if you'll notice from the first time Amphibia was greenlit up until its first poster, up until the final poster for the hardest thing that Matt himself made, it was always about Anne and Sprig. I think they are the central focus of all of Amphibia. And I think Sprig's in a very special position when it comes to the show. Because on the one hand, his like arc is very hard to define if it wasn't for that Matt interview, in which Matt said that one of the main themes of Amphibia, aside from the first one that we all know about change, the second one would be about how you should step out of like another person's shadow. And for the most of the show, Sprig was under Anne's shadow. And as the hardest thing came, the new arc for Sprig would be off screen, in which he would have to sally forth and become his own frog. But throughout the show, he does have his own defined character. And part of it, I think, is that he is like very purely intentioned when it comes to like his friendship with Anne. Like Matt said, like Sprig is Anne's rudder. He's the one that Anne knows he can like she can rely on, he can always trust just to want to hang out, to always have her back. And that puts him in a very interesting position because unlike Polly and Hop Up, they all have like their fighting identities outside of Anne. But for Sprig, there's so much about him and how he's changed throughout the show that relies upon Anne and his friendship with her. So I think it's very interesting to know how Amphibia ties that in and made him one of the central focuses of the show throughout all 3 seasons. So aside from that, going into like his character himself, even though like he's perfect in the sense of like sincerity, he's still a very flawed character. He still has like selfish interests. He still cares a lot about family. He doesn't always do the right thing. He has a sense of like what do you call that? Adventurous and like being too cocky sometimes and being too clumsy sometimes. But at the end of the day, he's still like a very good kid. And also, I'd like to add that even though like Hop Up's a fan favorite when it comes to like this Gazette's like humor, I think Sprig also is very funny and has like his own very funny lines. And I don't think that Amphibia would be the same show without him. I think him and Anne are the heart of this show, and like everything else would fall apart if it wasn't for their dynamic, their relationship, and how they bounce back off of each other, and how they learn to change and like accept themselves drifting away from each other while still becoming his own person. So his arc is not yet seen, but his arc was very important for Anne and for everyone else's characters. So that's all I have to say. And I just want to say, like, Sprig's like my favorite character. Obviously, it wasn't that obvious, but yeah, I feel like Sprig and Anne like bring something to the show that I don't think would make Amphibia the same if it wasn't for those two. So thanks for letting me pop off like that. The floor's back to you guys.
No problem. Thank you, Rook, for that very
That was great.
great summary of
Yeah.
Sprig's character. And I guess to kind of shift towards season one, Nick, I kind of want to ask you about your general thoughts of like Sprig, because I know like in the start of the show, in the beginning of season one, like Sprig is kind of like Anne's guide, or like, yeah, Sprig is Anne's guide in like the first couple episodes, and like he's the one who's kind of like drawing her into like the pulling her towards like the community of Wartwood. So I just want to get your like general thoughts on like your thoughts on Sprig in season one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, again, just like a very nice, wholesome kid. Like it really just contrasts with all the vibes and feelings they try to set up regarding Sasha and Marcy originally, because you again back then there isn't too much, like we really only had flashbacks or just quick scenes showcasing them, so we didn't really get the full breadth of their personalities. But yeah, there definitely was that whole energy of like, okay, they're bad news, right? And so they have this strong contrast of just Sprig just being this, honestly, yeah, good influence. Just this nice, simple, fun-loving kid. Like that's just like, again, I think, yeah. I mean, I think again, it's kind of just that. It's just kind of just that. Because I think I've gotten to this before, but I think you can still, I feel like, yeah, like a simple character like Sprig. You can still do so much with them. You can still feel so much impact for them just by how you sort of utilize them in the narrative. I think, yeah, again, it's that strong idea of being able to sort of realize that, okay, if Anne is with Sasha and Marsh, she's going to behave entirely different, right? She's going to feel, possibly very negative regarding that relationship. But I think, yeah, when we again, I'm going for all the weeds here, but I think, yeah, what I'm just saying is, like, yeah, it's just, yeah. He's a sweet boy. He's a sweet boy. I think, I think, man, yeah.
All
I think,
right.
yeah. I'm gonna say that's it. Yeah, yeah. I love Sprig. I love Sprig.
All right, thank you, Nick. And Impact, what are your kind of thoughts on? Because I know for season one, you kind of viewed it all at once when you were like got introduced to the show, and you were able to like kind of just like watch in one sitting, or not just one sitting, probably a couple, but like in a quick time frame. I guess what are your thoughts? Like, what were your general thoughts on Sprig in season one?
So on my first rewatch, I think for me, Sprig is a character who works better when he's bouncing off other characters and like solo by himself. If that makes sense. Because like Anne's relationship with Sprig is like the most important relationship in the show. Like pretty much all the ideas of Amphibia as a show and all its themes come from Sprig and Anne. And if you understand their relationship, everything else kind of just comes out of it. If that makes sense. Grows out of it, branches off from it. There we go. Looking for the right term for that. So for Sprig as a character, like I think it was really fun to have kind of this innocent kid with Anne. Anne's a bit more like not rough, but like you can tell she's a little bit more not jaded, like
Influential.
yeah, not even influential, like
She like leaves like an imprint on.
morally
Oh, okay.
immoral. I was gonna, yeah. Like Anne's a little more immoral than Sprig, because at least Sprig he'll just mess around and be irresponsible sometimes with Hop Pop, but he won't like rob him and then like try to like jump into a river that clearly says don't go in it, or like something like that, or like rob and steal a music box or something because his friends told him to, something like that. So it's really cool that Anne gets kind of like this innocent voice that tells like her like, no, this is wrong, this isn't the right thing to do, at least morally. But at the same time, Sprig is a kid, so he's also influenced by Anne at the same time, and doesn't really realize how kind of problematic her mindset can be at times with certain things. So, but I kind of like that, like Sprig gets to be kind of a static character in that regard. Like, yeah, sure, he's like, he's gonna be focusing on Anne's relationships with like Sasha and Marcy sometimes, but in season one, like Sprig is a pretty like static character who's always with Anne no matter what, even through like thick and thin. They're always like bouncing off each other. So I think even like Sprig with like Hop Hop is really good too. Like I'm forgetting the episode with
Fly of the Moth or Fiddle Me
Hop Hop.
This.
Yeah. Fiddle Me This. Where like I think it's just in general like Hop Hop and Sprig bounce off each other a lot in season one. I think those episodes are great. But part of me like, well, we do get that in season two. Um, but I think season one does that the best, and you have Sprig bouncing off Polly too, which is really fun. I don't think they really get episodes together more in season two than one, but I kind of like their exchanges more in season one. I don't know. I felt like the whole Planter family bounced off each other well, but Sprig really gets a chance to like kind of bounce off everybody. Um, I think that's where Sprig is at his best. So yeah, I really liked Sprig. I didn't really mind that Sprig didn't like change too much. If that makes sense. Like I like that Sprig can be a static character because even like at the start of the season one, like he's defending Anne from the mob, right? From like what is it? I think they're gonna like try to kill her or something. Like yeah, and then like and then by the end of season one, Sprig does the same thing where she protects Anne from Sasha and kind of notices how fucked up Sasha is to Anne and like how messed up their relationship is. And I think like it's cool too that like Sprig's like kind of constant encouragement of Anne kind of brings out the best of her too. You know what I mean? Like Sprig gets to be that voice for Anne to like keep moving forward. So I think, or not keep moving forward, but to be better and develop more as a person. So I think like, yeah, I like Sprig in season one. I think he's great. I feel like, yeah, I think I'm not sure if I would consider it his best season, but I do think he's in his element the most, where he just gets to bounce off a bunch of other characters like Ivy or Hop Hop or Anne, and that's really where he gets to shine. Also, he's really fucking funny. All the planters are in season. Like Sprig is really funny. Just kind of throughout the season and throughout the show, really, to be honest.
All right, thank you, Impact. So I like how you mentioned how like in the ensemble cast, like Sprig is like very much in his element, and I do agree. I do feel like when the cast is together, I feel like when the group is together and they're just like reacting to one another, I feel like Sprig is like the strongest character there. And I'll kind of
Yeah,
go into like more into that like near the end of the recording. But season one, I feel like Sprig really captures the kind of audience that the show is targeting. So like basically like
yeah,
we at the end of the day, like Amphibia is like the show is targeted towards like I believe 8 to 10 year olds. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but like Sprig very much feels like the character that's supposed to like be like the audience that the show is trying to get, or that the show is aimed towards. At least not from maybe like from like I guess a corporation point of view. It just so happens to be that like Anne is like the star character of the show and Sprig is like another main character, but we all know like that like all except Rurk that Anne is the main character of the show. but sorry, the star of the show, the star of the show. But and because Sprig really much like captures like the like Anne is the heart of the show. Sprig is Amphibia's kind of adventurous spirit, where his because you can't help but like be like drawn towards like Sprig's like energy, where he like just wants to like explore and like explore the world and like go find new like animals and whatever. Like I really like that innocent but like still pure-hearted like character who just very much like you can feel like you can feel Anne and Hop Pop trying to influence him to like like to do something, and it's always interesting to like see someone like kind of as like pure-hearted as him like try and come to terms with that and try to change a little bit to kind of like get what everyone wants and like make everyone happy. But I think maybe that might be a little too. I think that might be more into like season two. But for at least for season one, I just was a really big fan of like how he's the one who's kind of he's the optimistic he's the optimistic one in the group. He's like the cheery like happy guy. And I just really liked that kind of like energy he brought to like someone who's like a bit more jaded or amoral, like you mentioned, Impact, like with Anne, or someone who's much more jaded and tired, like Hop Pop. And then you have someone who's very like chaotic, like Polly. Like Sprig, I feel like is like a healthy. He's like the healthy dose of optimism that gets like the plot rolling. Sometimes in the wrong direction, like when things go out of hand, but like it's still like a fun energy to him. Uh
Yeah, and I think like a good point to mention too is that like Sprig is like I guess throughout the shows Sprig is always kind of like butting into relationships. Like he's always like he's trying to get Anne and Hop Hop to work together. Um, let's see, like okay, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but like he's
no, I
trying to
think
make
that's right. Cause like I know
like
even later, like Hop Luck and Stakeout, he's the one who's like he's trying to like convince everyone what like well convince himself that what's going on is right, even though just things get more out of hand.
yeah, and I think like even with like cracking Mrs. Croker, like he wants Mrs. Croker to like him, even though like you can't really force that Sprig. Like it's not how that works. Like or even like and that kind of shifts a little bit when Sasha and Marcy come into the show because Sprig is like as soon as is like at first Sprig is like it's Anne's other friend I could be friends with her and Sasha's like nah but that's not gonna happen and then Sasha says I'm like a bitch and then Sprig's like you're a terrible person f you and so like at that point he's like he's like more suspicious of Sasha and Marcy kind of throughout the show so it feels like it kind of shifts a bit when we get to like season two, where instead of like him like always trying to keep, I guess like to not keep, but like interfere with like or build relationships with like I don't know. I guess he still stays like butting into relationships, but just a little differently. Now he's a little more suspicious, like of like Sasha and Marcy or other people in general. So he's still optimistic. He's not like jaded, but like I kind of like that there's a little bit more like I'm getting to season two a little. So, but like, it's a little more like not like guess grit. I'm not sure. Like, there's more suspicion. The Sprig's more jaded, yeah, by season one, where he's being a little more suspicious of the relationships Anne has specifically, which is like an interesting like character shift in general from season.
Yeah, thank you, Impact. Like, yeah, between season 1 and 2, after Union, he's a bit more cautious when it comes to like the dynamic with the girls.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Because again, he spends the whole season pretty much sussing them out, and of course, he does. He did. He does eventually get convinced here and there, but yeah, pretty much the whole time he's just very. Again, he's very worried about like where are these girls going to take Anne? Right? Is she going to be hurt? Is she going to be hurt again after putting her heart out? Like he doesn't want to see it happen because I think like again I think yeah you can like yeah they really I think by the end of season one you can see that yeah Sprig really admires Anne and cares for her, but I think yeah you can especially say by the end of season two I think that's it's just love, right? Like he just like this is the person he really cares about. She means the world to him, and I think like yeah, I feel like that big turning point that I would say it has to be like hopping mall, right? Or like
Yeah,
please
yeah,
tell me please tell me I said the name right, like, but like yeah, again, it's that moment where yeah, they really again they really you know they sort of like yeah both Anne and Sprig they really cut deep into each other and really just pull out these raw emotions that I don't think they've never had that chance to before. Besides again you know reunion where yeah Sprig he gets to say all these amazing things that he sees in Anne, but you know. Yeah, I think yeah the most that Anne tells him is just hey thanks for believing in me, right? But here yeah this is just a deep and raw, just you know, emotions being exhibited. So I think like yeah, I think season two and beyond. Yeah, again, it doesn't have as many you know like brand moments, right? I think of season one, right? Like you don't, but it's like again, but every time it does come up, you know, it's that relationship again, you know, deepening more and more until these two really see you know what they mean to each other.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think even before we get to Utopia, like season 2, well, I guess we're like basically in season 2 talk now. Um,
yeah,
the first bit of season 2 where they're on the trip to Utopia, this is basically like Sprig's dream come true. Like he's going
Yep.
on an adventure to like the heart of their world. So it was really nice to see him like be. I'm looking at the season 2 episodes that might involve him a bit. Yeah, it's very much emphasized in like Handy Ann and Fort in the Road, but also comes up
Which
in
is yeah,
like
a very good opener. Very good
yeah,
opener, by the way.
yeah, the honestly the best opening, I guess, and the
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I think we had this debate before. I think we came to that
Yeah, we
consensus.
yeah, we
yeah.
agreed. Yeah, that's
I
funny.
forget if I agreed with that. I'm not sure. I think I did.
No, you should agree.
Okay.
But no, but I mean, yeah, but I guess just going back to it, yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, shit. Like, it's just again, I think this is in an aspect of his character that yeah, it gets all the focus, but yeah, but when it does, yeah, it kind of just reminds you again. Of course, he sort of had a sheltered lifestyle, right? Like he was born and raised in Utopia. I think he occasionally got to have his yeah, maybe he occasionally had a you know had his fishing trip, but you know he like if you look at things like you know societally, you know he's a fraud. I mean, he's on the lower end. You know he's poor, right? Even within Wartwood even within Wartwood, his family they're still sort of underdogs. So I think yeah, again, this is like the mother of all chances, right? Like so, it's just like yeah, again, it was very exciting just seeing Sprig get to be out there and just you know see the whole world. Like it was very satisfying.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like he got to like finally like get out of Wartwood. I wouldn't describe it as like sheltered. Probably because like I know we've seen how capable he is. So I think maybe it might be. I might say like just he wasn't well traveled, just because he never got a chance
Yeah.
to leave the town. I know Hop Hop like left the valley and stuff a couple of
Oh yeah,
times, so
Hop, yeah.
they're all kind of like leaning on him for that. But yeah, like on the trip, like once we get to once we get to Newtopia, he's basically like Sprig gets schooled, just basically points out that he's like extremely gifted.
Which I mean, they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong. Like I mean, just the things he gets up to. But yeah, I mean, it's like again, it's just I don't know because again, he never would have had this. Like what's the word? Like not confirmation, but he
Opportunity.
never would have had this opportunity, this appraisal, if you stayed in Wartwood, again, it's someone outside of Wartwood sort of like it just goes back to that major theme, man. It's just these characters putting themselves out there. They meet new figures that dramatically change their lives. Like he I don't think if he stayed in Wartwood his whole life, he never would have met this professor at Utopia University who basically told him like, hey man, like it's insane. Again, his future prospects are insane. He literally said, hey man, anytime you want to come back, it's free admission at the best university in the world. Like that's insane. Like that is insane. Like free admission. Like do whatever you want in this school. Like come back anytime you want to. That is insane to me. So I think it's just and all he did was catch a frisbee and then solve like a random equation. By the way, but like again, I guess yeah, going back to it, it's just like I don't know. Like again, I think it's just nice, reflecting on no, I'll keep it a Sprig. I'm going to reflect on the series, but I think yeah, keep it a Sprig. Yeah, again, it's just yeah, shit. I mean, I think this is yeah, again, it's another subtle way because I feel like we really focus heavily on Anne, and the show and just how you know we just focus on the examples or the themes you can find in the show. But yeah, when you go back to Sprig, yeah, it's these again. That's an example right there. He's out and about. He meets someone new that gives him something that he never. Yeah, that gives him something new. That's added to his life. Like it's just it's very nice. It's very nice. I love how the show just seamlessly ties it in. It just ties it in consistently like this.
I do like when
You
he.
think?
Oh, go ahead, Impact.
Oh, so I was gonna say a little tangent. Like, you guys think Sprig was able to go back to that university? Like, Utopia was destroyed, right? So, like,
It'll be rebuilt.
it
It'll
was
be rebuilt.
destroyed, and like, wouldn't Utopia University be mad different now? Because like, Amphibia's technology would have like advanced like tenfold, right? So like, I don't. I'm wondering if that's still available. Utopia University even exists anymore? Like I don't.
I feel like
I don't know.
if that professor met Polly, I feel like he would like swap who gets the scholarship.
Honestly, yeah. Like a part of me kind of wants it for Polly to have gotten that chance.
That
Maybe she does in the future.
that'd be a super fun like sequel series like episode.
Yeah. It is in general like world building wise, but yeah, I think that's a good point of how Utopia gives Sprig kind of new opportunities. I think like trying to think like I don't. Do we get any other Sprig episodes like after Utopia? Like which ones do we get? Like
We get Night
we
Drivers.
get
That's more of
like
a Sprig and Polly
yeah, that's more
episode.
of a Sprig Polly kind of thing. Which I will say that like I think Sprig and Hot Pop. I think Anne and Sprig is the most important relationship in the show. I think Sprig and Hot Pop is really. I don't know. Sprig and Polly kind of mid. I
Yeah,
don't
Yeah,
know.
what?
no,
Like
okay. I do
like
agree that
What?
like I kind of wish Polly and Sprig's relationship was a bit more like got more focus. Like I get because they're young,
yeah.
so like even though they're siblings, like you don't really expect a lot of like heavy drama, which is like completely like fine. I just would have liked to have more episodes focused on them together.
No,
Cause
that's fair. That's
cause I
fair.
feel like
Yeah.
even Civil War, that was mostly them arguing, but they're kind of like apart on separate factions. But I thought like Corler's Pass and Night Drivers had like the best kind of like poly Sprig focused stuff, and I think those are the only segments we got in the series.
Yeah, I feel like
you're right. Yeah,
I feel like Sprig and Polly just never get like, even with those episodes, man. I feel like they never get like anything hard hitting like Sprig gets with Anne and Hop. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I feel like with their relationships, like their episodes, like kind of dig more deeper into the characters. But I feel like with Sprig and Polly, it's just like they argue, they're siblings, like the it feels more like a gimmick than like a developed 3-dimensional relationship, if that makes sense. Like with Hop Hop and Sprig, right? You have Hop Hop who's like constantly trying to get Sprig to kind of do things he doesn't really want to do, but Hop Hop is like doing this because he loves Sprig and he wants him to have like a good life in the future, right? Like with that talent show, and like we're pressuring him to like marry like Ivy, which is the terrible idea. But it's like there's a better example of that. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, but I know
like
what you mean, but like, because at least with Sprig and Hop Up, you kind of get that because like Hop Up's the parent. Like,
yeah,
but like with Sprig and Polly, it's like I don't need to have like hard hitting stuff from them, but it's just that like you don't really like I think outside of Coraller's past, where like Sprig and Polly just like reference like a past like event they had together, like a past like activity they did. I think I just needed a bit more history between them, if that makes sense. Like
that's
just
fair.
like
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
like
see what you.
them kind of like because it feels like we don't get a lot of like backstory with like Sprig and Polly like together. Like at least with like family fishing trip, you got like Sprig and Hop Up, like they did this thing together. I felt like that could have been we could have gotten a bit more of that with Sprig and Polly, and even Polly and Hop Pop. But
Yeah, I
but yeah,
agree with that.
yeah, I
That's
think that's
a
fair. But I do want before we go to season 3, I just want and True Colors. I wanted to point out that like I do like how when Sprig when the planners return to Wartwood, like Sprig has like all these adventures now that he shares with Ivy, and that kind of influences like Ivy's episode, where like she's hearing about all these like cool adventures from Sprig, and then that kind of
yeah.
like Sprig has that kind of like I don't want to say shadow, but he has like kind of like influence now.
Sigma. I'm just kidding. But yeah, again, I agree. Yeah, again, that is just one of my favorite things about season 2. No, I think yeah, that's how do I word this? I mean, I guess I'll just say yeah. I guess I'll say directly. Yeah, that's a scene I really like. It's just, yeah, I really just I love how they just because again, season 2 has like a lot of plot points. It's balancing right, like a lot of different like a lot of different like I guess through lines, whatever storylines, like, a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
So it was just nice to sort of I guess yeah, I guess to sort of bring back Spivey like that, and then just sort of acknowledge again, yeah, that's a great thing. Yeah, they just acknowledge how how these again season 2 has an entirely different story from season 1, but I like how they sort of acknowledge how season 2's story will be influencing all these things they set up back in season 1, right? Like it's just nice seeing how that journey helped progress Spivey, right? Because again, it's just like it made Ivy now she wants to be more adventurous right now. She wants to be spending more time with Sprig. Really, just it's great. It was honestly a great moment.
Yeah, and I think you also just get the most Sprig kind of being involved with the relationship in this season. I think this is like the time where Sprig is like making fun of Sasha in the dinner, or Sprig is like suspicious about Marcy, or Marcy is like using Sprig as like a reason to sending in Sasha to Amphibia, like an excuse. Like I feel like this is the point where he's like most involved in that aspect of the story. which is weird to think about. You'd think that would be like, well, no, that makes sense because Marcy and Sasha are kind of more involved throughout this plot line, if that makes sense. So I think that's also interesting. Like that, and I think he's like the only Planter that really gets that. Like Pop doesn't really bounce. Well, kind of. He bounces off Marcy a little bit, and Polly doesn't really do much with Sasha and Marcy either. So Sprig's kind of like an interesting like observer of the girls' relationship. Like he's always like he's kind of an outside source to be like a little suspicious of Sasha and Marcy. Which is interesting too, because like as an audience, we're also the same thing. Like we also like just like Sprig, we're like even when Marcy at the gate shows up, right? I think a lot of people could still be like with Sprig on this one and be like a little, hold on, what's up with this Marcy girl? Like, yeah, she seems nice, but like, after Sasha, like I don't know, and the way Anne was acting in one, I don't know, there's something up with this girl. So I don't know. It's interesting that Sprig gets to like fit that kind of audience point of view of the girls' relationship. It doesn't know kind of knows just as much information as the audience. I think until season 3, I think like in terms of the girls' relationship, like he kind of gets to be a nice stand-in for that. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like it kind of all like culminate, like it all kind of comes together in True Colors, where all this stuff is like getting exposed and revealed, and Sprig is like the only one with the moral high ground.
Kinda, yeah. I think like the plants in general high ground because they're not betraying anyone.
Well, except Hop Pop.
You know. Wait, does he? Does Hop Hop like?
Like with the
Wait.
box and stuff.
Oh yeah. Right. I was thinking like, the episode, but like yeah, that's true.
But I know,
Like season 2 is just backstab extravaganza.
like Rook wanted me to like bring up again, like how like basically when like Andrews is holding like Sprig over the window, and she's like, "Oh, he's my best friend on this world or any other world," or like something like that. And it's just, and then like the disgust on like Andrews's face.
Yeah, the salt.
Yeah, the salt. He's just like, "Oh man, you had it so good. Too bad." Drops him off. Like, and I'll touch that more on that with like when we talk. I'm just gonna briefly bring up Leaf later, the pink frog. But yeah, like in that moment, like that flashback to basically the season 1 outro, that just hits hard. Like,
Yeah, no, it
Yeah,
was genius. Again, just that transition, just that was genius. That was genius.
yeah. You kind of forget in that episode that like technically Sprig never sees Anne go blue. Like it's only mentioned in New Normal, but it's like he never actually saw the transformation because he's flying out the goddamn window. So like, no, it's interesting. And like, I guess I'm transitioning to season 3 a bit because you don't really like because we have Sprig like kind of so involved in the conflict between like everybody pretty much like with even Anne and Marcy. Sprig's kind of in the middle. Andreas and Anne, Sprig's kind of in the middle. Sasha and Anne, Sprig's in the middle, right? He's kind of like the centerpiece of it. But I will say season 3 kind of like loses that a bit. I think I've talked about this before where like the planters and the girls kind of get like divided into two different points in the show. So it's like Sprig kind of loses that centerpiece. I feel like he was really important to keeping the narrative like stuck together. And Spran is still important to that, like overall. But it's like I think Sprig as a character lost it a little bit. Just a smidge. Because I think he still is important to like Anne's relationship with her parents and kind of like to her growth as a whole as a character. But I think Sprig does lose a bit of that in the plot. And especially since season 3 has like more stuff going on involved with that, it does hurt the character a little bit. I know I'm starting on a negative point. I actually have a lot more positive to say about Sprig, but it's like that is something I think was True Colors did really well. And then I think season 3 kind of lost because you don't really get Sprig's thoughts. Kind of everybody, like, what does he think about Andreas after everything, or like, or Sasha or Marcy? In season 2, that was like important. You know what I mean? Like, that was like Sprig's viewpoint of Marcy and being suspicious of her is like a whole like part of the episode. You know what I mean? So like I think that gets lost in season 3 where that part of the show is kind of divided, or even by like beginning of the end, like like the girls are kind of handling their own ship and Sprig is kind of just observing it, which he did throughout the show, to be fair. Like I mentioned that before. But it's like I don't feel like he's as interconnected to it as much. Besides maybe with Anne and Andreas's dynamic. Like Sprig is still pretty important to that overall. I mean, like literally, Anne gets her Super Saiyan powers, but Andreas dropping him off the castle, or even like Andreas, or Sprig kind of saving Anne at the last minute, kind of like how Reunion did it. So I don't know. This is something I wanted to draw out there.
So thank you, Impact, because like I do. I don't want to say I agree and disagree with you, but I did want to bring up Sprig's kind of role in season 3. Like for now 3A. I know you've mentioned in the past like kind of how the planners sort of take a backseat role, and they can kind of feel a bit blended together.
Yeah.
But I think for Sprig specifically, even though he's kind of like in 3A, he's like a breather to the immediate plot. I do think he has the most significant impact. Like his episodes in 3A have the most like have the biggest impact on the story in general, because just like I'm kind of just like looking at like general stuff. So like Thai feud, I feel like that kind of wraps up like the the mother aspect of Sprig that he kind of wanted, and like his dynamic with Miss Boonchoy, like what he wanted from her basically.
Mm.
And I think that was kind of like touched on in Family Fishing Trip and Hopping Mall.
Shopping mall, yeah.
And then you had stuff like Sprig's birthday, or actually I want to start with Spider Sprig just so I can end off strong. Spider Sprig kind of was addressing like Sprig being in a new world, kind of like the role reversal with him and Anne, and he was kind of like
Yeah.
he was trying to live out the life that he kind of pictured Anne having in Amphibia, when it was kind of more like Marcy's desire on Amphibia. Like he was trying to act like what Anne got, but he kind of got what Marcy wanted, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Uh,
And then and
yeah.
then Sprig's birthday kind of, at least personally for me, like that was the episode that got me thinking like, oh shit, things are wrapping up and these sentimental gifts that like Anne is giving to him and he's giving to her, it's like, oh shit, they are not gonna be they are not seeing each other again by the end of the show. Like and like in my mind I'm like my brain's telling me like, I'm telling you now, Thumb, you gotta be ready for this at the end. Like the evidence is mounting up, like, and I just thought like those segments, like even though they were a break from like the immediate plot, I feel like they were making a lot of, I guess, I don't want to say storylines, I want to say more like past character developments or feelings earlier in the show come full circle. And I think these segments kind of like did a big part in making the show feel much more complete by the time we got to the end. And I know,
I agree.
of course, there's like gonna be like, it's not just these things. There's like plenty of other stuff where the way Amphibia kind of like wraps up its story and like the finality, I don't know if I'm saying the word right, like the finality of it all. I think I think these three A segments did a great job at like kind of like showcasing that. I'll kind of touch more on that in the end with Sprig. But of course, like all these segments were Sprig focused. So so I do
I
think
think
Sprig. I do think sorry. I do think Sprig was like the strongest like character between like the Plantar Frogs in season three,
Oh wow.
in 3A.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, that's legit. I do think
Oh,
that's
the
legit.
planter
Yeah.
frogs. Okay, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I was like, okay, that makes sense. I think like, oh, Nick, were you gonna go? Because I'm gonna go on another thing.
I mean, I guess I was just yeah. I think I was just gonna back them up on the whole on this
Hey.
point regarding Spring 3A because yeah, I mean yeah, he has a lot of good moments with 3A, a lot of damn good moments with 3A, like some of the best episodes. Argue too, cough cough, Spider Sprig, cough cough. But yeah, I mean, again, I mean, yeah, again, I think it's funny because I know Hop Hop. You can say technically he's like the more complex character, I guess. But I think, yeah, I get on Sprig. There's just like so much potential for him, right? Because there's so many different things. I guess, yeah, 3A kind of shows, yeah, because out of the Planters, he gets like the most focused episodes, right? Like Kai Feud, Spider
Yeah,
Sprig, Sprig's birthday. I know probably, you know, there's more where he's probably, sort of like a backseat role for it, but he was still there. And I think it's just this idea, yeah, there's so many different things that you can do with Sprig, not just characterize, but just I feel like, yeah, just for the hell of it, right? Like if you just want to do like a genre parody, go ahead and throw Sprig in there, right? And that was again that was just like a great episode. It's a great episode, but yeah, again I agree. Yeah, he really shone in 3A. He really shone in 3A.
that's something I'll give that. I think Sprig's solo episodes got better than his season 1 and 2. I feel like I liked Thai Feud a lot. I think it was kind of just a better cracking Mrs. Croker, pretty much. Like it really was though. Like it was just a better version of that episode. Spider Sprig, I like. I guess I don't fully get the lesson because like I I'm not I don't fully get it. Like I think the idea is that like Sprig was like immature for like going out like that and like irresponsible, but it's like I don't know.
With
I don't dislike Spider Sprig, but I feel like there's something like missing about
yes,
it.
like absolutely. Like
Like
I feel like if Spider Sprig kind of focused more on like the comparison between Anne, like when Anne was an Amphibia, if that was kind of like the point, it would have made the entire episode like from like a high B to like an S tier episode if they just changed
Yeah,
like the ending motivation or like the conversation between Anne and Sprig at the end. I feel like that was what was missing. But yeah, without getting too much in the episode. But yeah, continuing back. Sorry.
yeah. No, I think you're right. I think like yeah, I think you're right. That's really what's and I feel like it's a big missed opportunity for Spider Sprig because you kind of I think I've mentioned this before where it feels like I feel like that episode really has a chance to like let Sprig figure himself out without Anne because he's trying to kind of like mimic how he thinks Anne's time in Amphibia was. And I think there's just a part of me that like wish Sprig like I kind of wish the Spider Sprig aspect like him getting the suit was something that was like I guess what I'm saying that I would have liked if that episode also focused on Sprig stepping out of Anne's shadow and kind of being his own hero instead of trying to mimic Anne's heroicism. Like that's what he's kind of trying to do, but then he ends up just doing his own thing anyway. So it's like I feel like I think you're right, Thumb, that like I feel like Anne should be more involved in Sprig's motivation in that episode. Because then I feel like we kind of just kind of mess around that episode with like Molly Joe and Robert Ardo. And I like their characters, they're cool, but it's like is that and factor, you know what I mean? That's missing. Like you need some of that. Um and then what was the other episode? Because Sprig's birthday is great. I know a lot of people wanted something a little bit more like dramatic, like Hopping Mall, but a part of me is like the ending already does that, so it's like super hard. Like even I'd argue harder than Hopping Mall does. So I think like Sprig's birthday being a fun episode is fine. It does feel, 3A tone thing. It is sometimes a little odd because like there's like crazy shit that's going on kind of in the background, and we're kind of like goofing off a bit. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for Spider Sprig. Man, not Spider Sprig. Sprig's birthday. Um. So yeah, I think these solo episodes work for Sprig the best. Like, and I think this is rounding out things with the character. And I think even with 3B, like we still get some great stuff with like Spivey and kind of rounding that off. And even like Grimes' pupil, which is like something where it's not really ending anything for Sprig, but it's like a nice kind of way to just give him a dynamic with Grime, and it's fun him bouncing off of. Sprig gets like out of the Planter family, I think, out of the Frog Planters. I think like let's get the best time in season 3. I think they really focus on this episode a little. So yeah.
I do like how in 3B like you get Spivey and Grimes people. I don't really have much to say about like Spivey, like the episode, but like Grimes pupil, that just felt like peak Sprig in like every way, like the comedy, like the performance, like the skill and power that Sprig has, like and
Pure cinema.
yeah, like it's just like that's like the peak, like that's Sprig's peak, I think. In actually no, not I don't want to say in the series, but like it just shows that like Sprig is actually like capable and reminds the show that he is like a capable like warrior basically.
Yeah, and it did feel like it was kind of like bringing all his like skills kind of throughout the show into play. I know the show doesn't focus on that, but it's like what's the word? Like I don't know. It felt like a natural fit for Sprig to be doing like to kind of be beating Beatrix with his own like agility and stuff. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I like that. I think he did a really good job with it. I can't tell why. Grass People was just always a really good episode to me. Like it's always been one of those underrated like gems of the show.
I don't think Grimes People is
And again,
underrated.
really?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people like enjoy Grimes People.
Oh, well, I guess I don't know. I never hear anyone talk about it. But then again, like I think it's because it focuses on mainly like the amphibians, so it's like, you know,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, but
I do
yeah,
think
no, I
I
mean,
do think out of all like the character, like, because I know like Amphibia's not like an action focused show, but Sprig definitely has like the most kind of, he has like the most unique move set if he was like a fighter. Like I know Anne has like the Calamity power up mode, but like take that way, Anne can like fight with a sword and racket or whatever. Like Sprig, he uses a slingshot, has his tongue, like super
Because of
agile.
both.
Has what? Sorry.
Doesn't he have like a staff or something, right? Like in Hopping Mall, bow staff.
Oh
Am I
yeah, but
bugging?
I think it
I'm
breaks in
pretty
that
sure he has.
episode.
Yeah, but I mean, he still has it, so you use that as that. There we go. Put him in a fighting game. Boom.
Yeah, no, like yeah, he when he was Frogman, like he had like he used his tongue as like like as his like web slinging thing. So it's like he's the most dynamic character in terms of movement. Uh,
It's kind of interesting because then like Sprig gets a great fight with Beatrix, but like he never gets like a fight like an all in. Like yeah, they fight the herons, but it's like a kind of a more like Frobo and the
yeah,
planters versus the herons. You never really get like a full on like fight where like Sprig gets to like punch Andreas in the face or something, or Darcy in the face. That'd be funny, So, which kind of makes me want to see that now. The more I think about it, like now that you mentioned that, like, like I don't know. That's an interesting like observation with that. Hmm.
yeah, because like, Amphibia doesn't have a lot of like duels. So like I think
Yeah,
Grimes People was like Sprig getting like another duel, and like that was like
yeah, and
him at his
usually,
peak.
duels in Amphibia, if they do happen, character pieces.
Hmm.
They're like oh, like Anne and Sasha. Like that's the big change in their relationship coming in. We have Sasha resisting change and embracing it and kind of holding her ground, right? Or like even with like Anne v. Andreas, it's kind of like Anne's natural foil and opposite growth throughout the story. Or like if she didn't go throughout the story, versus her who's kind of grown and developed throughout the piece. So, like, they're all like character analysis more than like the guys punch each other in the face a lot, which isn't really So narrative wise, like they always have like that beat. Like a fight isn't just a fight for fight's sake. Like it matters to like the overall writing of the character. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess to get into the finale stuff, Sprig's like in the finale itself, yeah, like Sprig was mostly like the heron stuff. That was more of like a planter thing. But then you get like the end where Sprig launches himself into space with Frobo to reach Anne when she's like ascending to godhood. And I just really like because like we talk about how like Sprig is Anne's rudder. Like Sprig keeps her grounded. So just like the idea that the show is like ending off with him like literally going into space to bring Anne back down Not down to earth, but like down to like Amphibia. But I don't know. I just thought that was like super like profound, I guess.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, Sprig made a fight to bring Anne back than like Sasha and Marcy. Like they kind of tell Anne like, no, don't do it, and then Anne says like, nah, we're gonna do it, and then they're like, okay.
They're tired. They're tired though.
Like they're just Sasha and Marty are just that tired. They're just like, oh, whatever, Anne. Okay, here you go. Wow.
Yeah, take the L, Anne. Thank you. And then Sprig's like, fuck that. Goes into space.
He screams at Frobro like, get your behind over there. We're getting her out of there.
Wait, what was it like? Oh, where's Anne? And then he just yeets himself into space.
Yeah, like, because with Sasha and Marcy, they're like, what's the word? Like they don't want that too, but Sprig is like nuh-uh, like that like Sasha and Marcy are trying to accept it, sort of thing, but like Sprig is like firmly like, I don't care. That's never happening in this reality. She's coming back down. Like, I don't care if Amphibia gets destroyed. Like, that's not happening. Like,
but I guess
I like that.
Sasha, not to go too much with Sasha and Marcy, but I guess they didn't know Anne was gonna like die, right? They just thought she was just gonna.
No, I think they were.
I think
they were suspecting something. Like she was sacrificing herself.
She said it. Anne did say like I might die in the process, kind of thing. Because she didn't even know. Really, Anne wasn't like 100% sure. I think a part of it is like Anne is like doesn't want to die, but also is like, so she's kind of like having hope that like, okay, hopefully this works out. Like I don't actually die. So like I think Sasha and Marcy kind of know, and I think they know Anne enough at this point that like she would do that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I don't know. I don't think it's a thing where like Sasha and Marcy don't know what Anne's gonna commit to. Anne says it. You know what I mean? She tells them. So I don't think they make that call with thinking Anne wouldn't make that sacrifice. I will say, I know I'm going to a tangent for a bit. I will say Anne should have told them earlier before they got into space. But like they kind of have no choice to say yes or no. You know what I mean? Like, I guess they do. They could just be like, no, we're just gonna bring everyone off Amphibia on the Earth or something with the box. But it's like, I don't know. I wish they kind of talked before that point. But anyway, we'll save that for the tier list. But
yeah, but like Sprig yeets himself into space, to bring Anne back, and it's they say everything out loud that you kind of need to hear, like about like how Anne changed Sprig's life, and vice versa, and it's emotional stuff. Like I haven't watched the finale in like a year.
Yeah, same here.
But I do know like that like got me like it got me.
Yeah.
But I think
oh, go ahead,
I think
Impact.
with I was gonna say like I think for the finale, I think it kind of gave me everything I wanted for Sprig. They take Anne and Sprig's goodbye like the most seriously out of any other in the show, which is thank God, right? The most important relationship in the show. It's kind of the one that's developed the most throughout it. Like they don't hold back either. Like I feel like you get like Sprig has to say goodbye to Anne twice. Like first by like Anne dying, then she comes back, and then she has to leave again. forever. Like essentially, just Sprig just lost her lost his sister like twice. Like
in like less than half a day.
yeah, it's crazy. Jeez. But you know, for the ending of the story, I think they did a really good job with it. And I think like I don't know, I think they just gave Spran like justice by the end of the show. Like I feel like even with my kind of complaint with how I wish Sprig was more tied to the conflict of like the girls and Andreas a little more. Like I think they ultimately gave like Sprig a lot of justice by the end of the show, just because of how well developed Sprig and Anne's relationship is. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think they made the character work by the end, and like Sprig doesn't have like a character arc fight. If that makes sense. The same way like Anne and Sasha and Marcy do. Even though Marcy doesn't like deck the core in the face, she still gets like a conflict inside the core. So I consider that a character arc fight. But I think like I like the idea that Sprig kind of is like the ending of the show is setting up Sprig's own adventures, but also him being undefined by Anne. That's a cool thing Matt mentioned in the interview, and I think like I don't know. I always find that interesting that like Sprig isn't necessarily supposed to be like dynamically changing like throughout the show. But instead like his change now comes from the adventure previously. Well, not from the adventure, but his change happens due to the fact that the adventure is over. I feel like a lot of shows, not like Amphibia, but like a lot of shows in general, like have the characters constantly be static forever, just to keep the show going. But the ending of Amphibia kind of invites this idea that Sprig has to change and has to grow. And now, like, this is his chance to be his own person, undefined by Anne, and kind of like figure himself out. And I think, like, a part of me kind of wishes, like, this is a little fandom critical. Yeah, not really. But I do wish when more, like, fix and, like, art and stuff is made for, like, older Sprig in terms of, like, his reaction to Anne, like, of not trying to keep him the same, like just making him Sprig but like slightly older. Like, but more so like thinking more about okay, how would Sprig be different without Anne's influence in his like like he would still have Anne's still influence his life, but like you know what I mean, right? Like Anne's not always physically present. Like how does that change Sprig's character and what does that mean like for his relationship with Ivy and Maddie? I don't know. Just something to think about that like Sprig wouldn't be static Amphibia, right? Like he would have to be a pretty different person, like if Anne ever met him again, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part about Sprig's kind of like arc. It's like we don't get to see that aspect of him like actually evolving without Anne, because like the show ends with Anne
Yeah.
going. But like, and I do like just to kind of go back a little bit, like All In kind of like brings up the point where like Sprig is thinking like everything can go back to normal, and Hobble kind of has to give him the kind of like the talk about it, and then just to like
Yeah.
plant that in Sprig's mind, because I think he mentioned like Monster of the Week, like he mentioned like something very like meta about like just like monsters every week or something, but and then like even when Marcy's freed from the course control, and like Anne's giving like Anne's giving Marcy and Sasha that talk about like them separating doesn't
Talk.
change everything, but like the way the camera like pans over to Sprig, like and like and they don't say anything, but like you see like the gears turning in his head like about it. Just
Yeah, and then like Sprig acts, and like I forget exactly what he
yeah,
acts like.
will
Do
our
you
thing
think?
change or something
Yeah,
before the
which is
moon
like
comes? Yeah,
yeah, it's in. I do really like that because it does put Sprig in a position where like you see he's always been kind of the observer of their friendship, kind of throughout the show. So I like they use that here, even if he's like not involved in it. I like that he still keeps that like observer role in the dynamic. Though it does make he doesn't have like by season 3, Sprig doesn't have the same information like the audience does of their relationship, which is like the first time in the show, I think, because I think every other time like Anne would explain to Sprig like who Sasha and Marcy were or like their problems, but like here it's like different by beginning of the end because really Anne and Sasha are the only ones who get that info. But anyway, like yeah, it's interesting that they're kind of like not setting it up, but like I don't know. I think they did a good job with Sprig. I'm glad they gave him like something to think about kind of throughout the finale. There we go.
yeah, definitely. And I know like you mentioned Impact, like the Anne Sprig goodbye gets like the most screen time. It also got they got a guest animator. She worked on Frozen, and they had her come in and like animate that the scene where like they hug and like it does like the 360 pan.
Yeah, I forget who it was exactly. That was a beautiful scene. I'm glad they got great animation for that part. Like it's interesting because I feel like the animation for that part is slightly better than like the girls' transformations. Maybe I'm crazy, but it's
No,
like
no, it definitely is because like she animated just that scene, I think.
yeah, but it's kind of funny to think about. But yeah, like yeah, that scene was great.
Yeah. I mean, man. And again, yeah, because I haven't touched the final episode in like in like a long time now, just because it's like again, like even a second of it brings all the memories back, and I'm just like keep that off me. But yeah, I mean, again, there's like yeah, again like that final embrace, that final hug is burned into my mind because it's crazy how simple it is. But I feel like when you bring in like a guest animator, it's pretty much just for like okay, I don't know. I feel like at that time, typically it was like okay, we're bringing in a guest animator to make this really awesome looking fight scene or something like it's a really important moment. But it's like this revolving camera turn as they hug. That's like wow. You know what I mean? Wow.
And the music cue for it's great too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's just burned to my mind. Like I will never forget where I was when I watched it. Like how I was feeling. Like it's just I don't know. It felt very iconic. It was good.
There's
Yeah.
something a part of like oh nah, never mind, forget it. Keep going though.
Oh, I was just gonna say this is the second time that they got me.
Yeah. I think honestly they got me with Ansprig's first goodbye. I think Hot Pop's goodbye to Anne was like the oh shit like like moment for me. Like I think the first goodbye with Spring and Anne was like a little like slap, but then the Hot Pop goodbye was like the punch in the gut, and then like the Spring and Anne goodbye just like slammed me to the ground. So just got comboed, emotionally comboed. So
Man. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you got that hug, and I do, to kind of just wrap up, I do feel like Sprig has always been like the conduit of the series were kind of all the most like emotional hitting stuff in the show, and even like even though it's not like directly like storyline focused, like just the general themes of the show all kind of like run through Sprig in some can run through Sprig in some extent. Like obviously change, yes, you can relate that back to Sprig, but even like the minor stuff of the show with like Andreas and Pink, even if it's not direct, like just because even for example, when we met Leaf, the pink frog, it's just the visual it's just the color, but it's just a visual reminder for Andreas. And that kind of does still have an effect like on the audience and the show. Just like having another like I know obviously like Andrew shouldn't just like treat Sprig like garbage because he resembles Leaf, but like in the from the audience, that's kind of like how we like connect Sprig and Andrews in a way, or like that's kind of like a way for the audience to connect with with Andrews's sort of fallout with Leaf in the present day with Sprig, when like in True Colors like Andrews gets to Sprig, but then also in the finale where like Sprig is kind of like talking, like Leaf is talking to Andrews through Sprig literally with that letter at the end.
Oh shit, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Shit.
So you have that,
I,
and
I
then
never think about
also you have in like the finale, like in the last moment where basically like Anne's named this like South American, I think, tree like pink, like it's a fake frog, like the South American pink tree frog after Sprig. Like that's also another like visual reminder to the audience of like of Sprig, basically, and just like the
he's literally named Sprig, the
yeah, like, it's
frog.
just so you can never escape Sprig.
Sprig's always watching, always around.
So I guess
Yeah.
Nick, any final thoughts on Sprig?
I mean, damn. I mean, again, it's just. I mean, again, he was just great at everything. Um, he was pretty much great at everything the show tried to do. Again, comedic, emotional, maybe story wise, just like really, really solid stuff. And again, I mean, I'm just glad I was there to watch all the episodes and just appreciate him as a character.
All right, thank you, Nick. Impact. Any final thoughts?
I really like Sprig. I think his character plays a really large part in the kind of like the entire themes of like change throughout the show and how important he is to kind of Anne's story as a character. I think Sprig is great. I think they did a really good job. Even if he isn't like a character who's changing all the time, that's okay because in a way, him being static is like exactly what Anne needs. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, and I think like that also works by the end of the story where he can't stay static anymore. He has to grow, he has to change. He has to change as a person. I will say, I did mention this earlier, but like, there's a part of me that wishes season three had Sprig a little bit more involved into like the conflict with like the girls and Andreas just a bit more. Just slightly. Like even like just getting his thoughts on Marcy after he betrayed them or Sasha or getting like a Sasha Sprig episode thing. Like I'm not saying I want Sprig to be all involved in that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just like I like that aspect of season two because I think they found a really good balance of making sure Spran was like the major, most important thing in the show, and that Spran as a friendship connects to the conflict of like Anne's relationship with Sasha and Marcy well into the rest of the themes of the story. I do think season 3 kind of messes this up a little bit. But other than that, I think season 3 kind of bounces off this though with better solo episodes for him and like a really solid ending off the character. So I think there's like an equilibrium that happens with that. But yeah, I think Sprig's great. And I think if we ever do get like a sequel series, I do hope it's just on Sprig. Like I don't really need it on the girls or anything. Like I like the girls are fun, but like let them just be 23-year-olds, on Earth. Like their adventure's over. But like Sprig's adventure just beginning feels like a way to explore the character in a lot of new ways. Um if we had to do a sequel series, like a Matt, they paid Matt like a ton of money or something. He was like, "Hey, let's do it." And then there you go. Don't focus on Anne. Get Sprig in the game more. Then boom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Impact. Yeah, like well said, guys. That's really all for today. Thanks everyone for listening. And next time we're going to talk about the this is a topic that I was kind of debating on, but since we have it, I think we're going to talk about the Amphibia pilot.
Let's go. We're gonna talk about the differences, even though it's like not actually that different.
It's not that
From the
different, but
original.
I do think the
Yeah,
highlight reel at the end of the pilot, I think there's enough there to talk about.
yeah, and I think the episode itself still has some interesting differences in character. So yeah, mainly from Hop Pop, I feel like.
Mhm.
But yeah.
But that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and see you guys next time. Say goodbye, everyone.
Catch you later.
Peace,
Catch you
guys.
later.
See ya.
Have a good one.